There's nothing quite like the rush of kicking your body into high gear. It's a great way to whet your appetite and sharpen your mind. Let me share a secret recipe. Discover an ingredient that fires your imagination. Choose other flavors to match. Find the best way to cook them. My secret recipe? Cooking without a recipe. I hit the bike pretty hard today. I went looking for some new trails I'd heard about. Now it's time to fuel up with some more new ideas. And I know just the place, the kitchen. It's a great place for you to start a creative journey too. To me, a great ride, great cooking, and, well, life in general always begin with something familiar. Like pork chops, and then something new. Because if you're looking for inspiration for dinner, perhaps the easiest place to begin is to simply ask yourself, well, what would I like to eat today? Something familiar, pork chops. And then ask yourself, what would I like to eat with these? And to answer that question, to find something new, I know just the place. You know, there are many flavors under the sun, and there's just as many ways to combine those flavors. So how do you know which flavors go together? How do you match flavors? Well, it's as simple or as complex as you care to make it. You can begin with, say, ethnic inspiration. For instance, Thai coconut curry broth with pork, a wonderful dish that I've enjoyed many, many times. Or you can simply look for similar ingredients, which is why bacon, sausage, and pork chops always seem to go together. Or perhaps the easiest way of all, look for the tried and true, something traditional, something classic, like apples and pork. Hey, certain flavors just go together naturally. Now, of course, there's 50 different ways that I can combine pork and apples. But today, I'm going to stuff the pork chops with apples. Now, to make an apple stuffing, I'm definitely going to need another kind of pork, some bacon or some sausage. Looks like all my bacon is frozen, so hey, Italian sausage just got promoted. I think I'll begin by browning off this sausage a little bit. I'll just chop it up, and then I'll work some onions in, maybe a little garlic, some other flavors, and then the apples. A splash of water will even the heat out in the pan so the sausage starts to cook evenly, so that ultimately it will brown evenly. Now these can go straight into the pan with the sausage, and that'll actually help the sausage get cooking as well, because I've added more moisture to this pan. Now I want to add brown flavors to this stuffing, not black burnt flavors, so I'm going to turn this down and be patient. I just remembered another way I like to match flavors. Accent what's already there. Since Italian sausage is loaded with fennel seed, it's the dominant flavor in Italian sausage, I might as well add some more fennel seed to it. As soon as I add the apples to the pan, their moisture content is going to lower the heat of the pan and the browning is over. That's why I've been so patient, because I love the flavor of caramelized pork and apples. Now at this point I need to soften those apples up. So I think what I'll do is perhaps add a splash of apple juice and a tight-fitting lid. I'm looking for something that will absorb moisture, something that will stiffen up that apple mixture so I can stuff away with it. Things like rices would work. All of these would work really well. But without a doubt, the simplest way to make a stuffing is with bread. Now, as you can see, There's a lot of moisture in there now. Those apples have turned quite soupy. Just check it out. See, they're softening up nicely. And speaking of moisture, there's actually a lot of moisture in this fresh bread too. But the best bread for stuffing is dry bread. Check this out. I'm just going to simply make some slices and then toast them. So, how do you stuff a pork chop? Well, for that, you need a pocket. Here's what I do. With the bone on one side is cut in on the other side, just like this. Now you really have to feel your way with the tip of your knife. I can feel that bone all the way in the back there. Basically, I'm trying to make the biggest possible little pocket here. There we go. See that? That's where the flavor's going. Now this bread has dried out nicely, and of course by toasting it I also added some more caramelized flavor. Just mix all this together. And now let's stuff some pork chops. These look great. And that's how you stuff a pork chop with lots of appley goodness. Looks like I stuffed that pan with just a little bit too much appley goodness though. What am I going to do with all the extras? I've been riding hard all afternoon looking for new ideas. First on the trail and now in the kitchen. I'm finding easy inspiration for all the different ways that flavors can go together in my kitchen and yours. Like pork chops and traditional apples, which I decided to stuff the chops with. So to make an apple stuffing, I chose another type of pork, sausage, and browned it off with onions and then highlighted its built-in fennel seed flavor with even more fennel seeds. But I ended up with a lot of leftover stuffing, which still needs a home. In the fridge right now, I've got some beautiful apple stuffed pork. So hey, why not pork stuffed apple? Let's give the apples a chance to shine. Now, I'm using some Cortland apples today. These are nice, firm, stuffing apples. They've got lots of texture, so they'll stand up in the oven and hold their shape. Okay, let's start stuffing again. There we go. And now all I have to do is bake these off. 350 degrees should do it. You know, my pantry is full of a lot of ingredients that I think of as vehicles. They're bland, neutral ingredients that really don't have a lot of their own flavor. They're at their best when they're carrying other flavors. Things like, well, pasta, for instance. I mean, pasta doesn't have a whole lot of flavor until you add some sauce to it. And rice, of course. White rice, it definitely needs a flavor boost. All you need is 1 cup of rice and 2 cups of water. It couldn't be simpler, but hey, why not take advantage of this flavor opportunity? Because water's not going to take us anywhere near Flavorville. Tomato juice, why not? So 2 cups of tomato juice. You know, as I look at this, it sort of has a southwestern feel to it. And since I often add an oil to my rice before I start cooking it, I've got just the ingredient. There it is. This is something I like to make now and then. It's a spice-infused oil, and this one just happens to be infused with cumin, a very common southwestern ingredient. For intense cumin flavor, Simply combine a few spoonfuls of ground cumin seed in a very clean jar with a few cups of mild olive or vegetable oil. Shake, then gently heat in a simmering water bath for 30 minutes or so. For maximum flavor extraction, make sure the level of the simmering water equals the level of the oil in the jar. Strain the works, then drizzle away. Cumin oil is great for sautéing as well. Now I've got some simple ingredients that are common in any kitchen that also have some southwestern roots: corn, green onion, lime, cilantro, red pepper, and a red onion. I'll sauté the red pepper and the red onion together, and then I'll add the corn, which only really needs to be heated through, and then the rest of this will come towards the end. I just want to warm them up a bit, get them ready to meet the rice. Okay, while I wait for that to soften up, I'll trim the corn up. So I'll just warm the corn through, and while I wait for that, let's get some green onions ready. I don't want to add the green ingredients just yet. I don't want them to wilt. I want to keep their nice fresh flavor. This is a good time to chop some cilantro up as well. Now that rice should be done by now. So at this point, I'm just going to add the rice right on top of the veggies. I'm going to toss in all these good green ingredients. Add some salt. And another seasoning ingredient for southwestern cooking, some lime juice. Great way to brighten up all those flavors. And now, just stir all that together. Now that looks amazing. It smells pretty good too, and I know it's going to taste good. I'm glad I went that route. But you know, it's time to come on home and get cooking those pork chops. I had a great ride today. Found some new trails to explore. One of my all-time favorite things to do on a bike, in life, or in the kitchen. I've been looking at all the ways that I'm inspired to pair flavors and finding lots of new ideas. Like apple stuffed pork and pork stuffed apples, both featuring a tasty stuffing full of brown sausage and fennel seeds. I also transformed bland white rice into a tasty southwestern dish with cumin oil, red peppers, red onions, corn, and cilantro. I've been looking for inspiration for flavor pairings all day, but your cooking methods are also inspired by one simple thing: the ingredient. In this case, I'm inspired to do everything I possibly can to keep those pork chops moist, because the ingredient always inspires the technique. So the best way for you to cook pork chops is with what I call the high heat, low heat method. In other words, start by searing the pork chops, get lots of nice brown flavor on the outside of them, and then turn the heat down and finish them off low. Now that sizzling sound tells me that that pan is filling up with flavor, brown flavor. You know, my grandmother was legendary for her pork chops, and she never had any problem with dried out pork. I mean, what is it about today's pork that it dries out so easily? Why is today's pork different? Pork is the world's most common meat. In fact, in China, the word for pork is the same word for meat in general. Now, wherever you go on the globe, pigs are voracious eaters, and with today's selective breeding, they can grow to market size in just 6 months. Not enough time for them to toughen up, which is why today's pork is way more tender than it used to be. It's also leaner, because in the last 20 years, pork producers have responded to the demands of the market and bred much of the juicy fat right out of the meat. What used to be a fatty meat is now a lean one. But the fat of yesteryear helped baste the pork as it cooked. Hence, today's pork should not be cooked as vigorously as it once was. And since modern production methods have eliminated the threat of nasty trichinosis, a little bit of rosy pink means a lot of tender, juicy pork. Now these pork chops are done, and they're still nice and juicy, but this pan's not done yet. Just look at it. It's full of flavor. What you see there is what's known as the fond, and to get that flavor, I simply need a liquid, any liquid. But for those pork chops, there's really only one liquid. Apple juice. Because hey, this pan is already full of apple juice flavor. And when you're looking for ingredient pairings, the best advice of all, keep it simple. Apple goes with apple. You know, as this apple juice reduces down into a beautiful sauce, it occurs to me that when you're pairing flavors together, there's two basic ways that you can do it. With complementary flavors, say flavors like apple and pork, or even all of those southwestern ingredients. But there's also contrasting flavors, flavors that accent other flavors. Flavors like, say, mustard with pork, huh? Apple mustard sauce with your pork chops, anyone? Hey, when that sauce gets poured over top of those pork chops, we're talking flavor, serious flavor, complementary and contrasting flavor. Today I've been on a tasty journey looking for great ingredient pairings, and boy have I ever hit the flavor jackpot. These juicy pork chops were crying out for a traditional flavor mate, and now they're resting comfortably with apple stuffing. And then, as a variation on the theme, I decided to stuff apples with stuffing. And since the stuffing is stuffed with Italian sausage, and Italian sausage is stuffed with fennel seed, I decided to stuff the stuffing with more fennel seed. Now today my ingredient pairings have been inspired by complementary flavors, my cooking methods have been inspired by, well, the ingredients themselves, and now my presentation is inspired as well because, hey, I just want to have a little fun. So, let's get all this food to the table. This plate is going to be for Gabe. Now when I plate food for Gabe, there's one overriding rule. I can never ever under any circumstances let any of these ingredients touch each other. So we'll start with a pile of beautiful southwestern rice. Put that over on that side of this plate. And a pork stuffed apple. We'll see how adventuresome Gabe is today. Some asparagus. Some days he likes it, some days he doesn't. And I think we'll skip the sauce on Gabe's plate. Now, there's one for Gabe. This one's for Rachel. Now, Rachel gets the full-blown restaurant presentation. So we'll just pack that right there. Look at that. Fan those out. And her pork chop, she gets the prettiest one. That's some sauce. One for Rachel. Now this one's for me. Okay, let's see. I've been riding hard today. I'm hungry. Some southwestern rice there. Now, there's my pork chop. Ooh, look at that. Some sauce. Oh yeah, I still need one of these apples. That looks great. You know, you can be an off-road explorer in your kitchen too. Just hop on and let it roll. You'll discover ingredients along the way, and the flavors will follow. Because when you look for inspiration, you find ideas in life and the kitchen.
My apple. I don't get an apple.
I forgot your apple. Good thing I have an extra one. I started with some pork chops. And next thing you knew, I was stuffing them with apple stuffing, which had sausage in it. And as it turned out, since the sausage had lots of fennel seed in it, I put more fennel seed in it. And then I decided to stuff the apples with the stuffing too. So now I have pork stuffed apples and apple stuffed pork.
What's your sauce here on the pork?
The pan sauce, the drippings with apple juice. I love the rice.